Okay, so welcome to the Future of Fashion Inclusion, the Shoes Edition. We are so beyond excited, thrilled. Oh my gosh, it's global. We've gone global. We have global brands. And I'd like to invite you on behalf of Angela Bianchi from Virgo Image and Samanta Bullock from SB Shop. And I am Nancy Connor from Smart Adaptive Clothing. So I'm going to introduce our guest panelists, and Samanta and Angela will ask questions of the panelists. And towards the end, we'll have an open dialogue between all of the attendees and the panelists. We encourage you to reach out, ask questions as we're going, and we'll get to those Q&A questions at the end. Have fun. That's what it's all about, building community, learning about brands, sharing ideas. And oh my gosh, this is so exciting. So here we go. I am going to start with our first panelist, Andrea Levant. Andrea is a nationally and internationally sought after disability inclusion expert. She is widely recognized for spearheading a global disability justice movement as impact producer for Netflix Oscar-nominated film Crip Camp. Executive produced by President Barack and Mrs. Michelle Obama. Yes, I did say that, the Obamas. Andrea is founder and president of Lavant Consulting, a social impact communications firm that offers cutting-edge corporate development and content marketing for brands and nonprofits. Plus a whole lot more. I'm not going to share everything because Andrea will. Our next panelist is Xian Horn. Xian is a joyful half Asian woman with cerebral palsy who serves as a teacher, speaker, beauty advocate, blogger, exemplar for AT&T and NY Connect Ability Challenge toward the creation of assistive technology. Xian was named Women's E-News 21 Leaders for the 21st Century in 2017 and in Walker's Legacy Power 15 in 2018. Some more highlights, Xian is also a contributor at Forbes, Allure, and she is just an all-around amazing person, and I'll let Xian tell you more. Mr. Billy Price, the co-founder of Billy Footwear, as a teenager and native to Seattle, sorry. Billy suffered a spinal cord injury and became paralyzed from the chest down, losing the ability to move his fingers. Daily tasks became difficult, but using his creative, very creative mind and unyielding spirit, he never gave up. He continued on facing life's challenges and tenacity and determination. Sneak peek, more from Billy, co-founder of Billy Footwear. Our next panelist, Ms. Kristine Ferrell, is a women's footwear designer for UGG brand. Yes, UGG brand, love it. She's been a member of the team for over 4 years and counting, and is proud to be a part of the evolution of the brand. Her entry into the industry started in kids footwear, where she has over 10 years experience. During that time, she also designed for brands such as Michael Kors, Stuart Weitzman, Tommy Hilfiger, and Juicy Couture. Okay, hello. More from Kristine soon. And Chiara Farion from Milan. She is a personality on the move. Based in Northern Italy, designs shoes for women and men, accompanying them in a magical journey toward their most representative pair of shoes. And more from Chiara. So I will hand it over to Angela and Samanta. And with the questions, we're hoping that each of the answers might last about 2 minutes because we have action-packed. Be yourselves, have fun, and take it away, everyone. Thank you.
So good night, guys. So happy to be here. And I'd like to ask some questions for you that everyone is very curious about. So I'm going to start with Andrea. Could you tell a little bit more about your story for us, please?
Sure. So I'm Andrea. Thanks for having me. I'm just for anybody that can you hear me? Good.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm going to provide an image description just in case that's helpful for accessibility. So I am in my living room outside of Phoenix, Arizona, with some fun, bright things behind me, including a teal couch and some other accessories. I am wearing an off-the-shoulder, it's actually a jumper, you just can't see it, orange. And then I'm wearing green kind of cat eye square glasses, purple lipstick. My hair is a little bit below my chin, straight, and I'm a Black woman. So yes, thanks for having me. So a little bit about myself. I am a wheelchair user. I have been my entire life. Was diagnosed with spinal muscular atrophy when I was 2. So, for me, this is my, lifetime lived experience. And I would say for the purposes of this conversation, I grew up with parents that were both of my dad's closet is probably bigger than all of ours, like put together. He loves them all. That's his catharsis. So, with parents that were very into style and fashion. And I think that, when I was younger, we spent so much time trying to find things that just worked for me and worked for my body in a seated position. And I remember having to wear before stretch jeans were like a thing. My mom putting me in maternity jeans, which because they didn't have, they needed the elastic and stuff like that. So it wasn't and so fashion just wasn't, it wasn't something that I think that I thought was something that I could really have, because the concept of fashion and function just didn't seem to go together. But then when I got to high school, like I think a lot of high schoolers do, you kind of start paying attention a little bit more and start thinking about how, your body and what will work and what won't work, and just paying attention to those things and realizing that there were things that were possible. For me, it was just about kind of being very intentional about that. And so in addition to the work that I do and strategy and communications, I love being able to, just show people that you can express yourself through style, through, clothing, through all of that. It takes some thought, and so I'm excited to be here and see what else. I know it's only 2 minutes, so we'll talk about that. Thank you. Excited to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask Xian the same question. Please tell a little bit more about your story for us.
Yes, well, I'll also do my description. I'm a Chinese and Jewish, or Jewish woman, also Christian and Jewish, so doubly Jewish woman with, animal print jumpsuit on at the moment and long brown hair. I am also in my living room. The background is actually a Japanese painting. This is a modern geisha next to me. You can't really see, but actually the artist of this painting was nominated for an Oscar as well in the documentary category a few years ago for something called Cutie and the Boxer. If you get a chance, check it out and you'll see my dad in the background. But Andrea mentioned something that resonated with me, which is I grew up, first of all, my mom went to FIT. My dad's closet is full of way fancier brands than I've ever thought to have. I went to Wesleyan, which is like hippie school, and so I always had holes in my jeans, holes in my shoes. So can't wait to talk about the shoes issue, because I traverse the world with 2 shiny ski poles, but I always have dragged my left foot, and so it just meant that I liked admiring other people's shoe wear, but I tended to be kind of stuck in a Mary Jane sort of region with the shoes until I figured out that I could actually do a chunky heel. So a lot of the shoes I wear now actually match this animal print, and I just rock a chunky heel, and it makes me feel a little bit more professional, a little bit more like a woman. So that was a big transition. I guess we'll get into that in a second. But yeah, I mean, I always thought fashion was kind of, my parents' area, and that I was just going to lead with my heart. But I also realized that, to the people that I represent, I'm a role model, especially the students that I teach at NYU and other places. They're looking to me to see what's possible. And so being casual Xian, relaxed Xian is great, but it's, I just had to step up my game. And I realized that, my mom, at any time, she looks red carpet ready. And I used to be like, what's with that? And I think I realized it's time for me to up my game, since that is, kind of, the family business, so to speak. Rather than wondering why she's always dressed up, I can also, and I think too, it's interesting because not every adaptation that I needed was necessarily disability related. I remember being a teenager, and my dad sat me down and was like, Xian, I know it's cool to like show your midriff, and I had no idea what he was talking about. And it turns out, because I have a long torso, a lot of the shirts that I would buy were just naturally too short for me. And so it seemed like I was trying to set some kind of belly trend, but the truth is that I just needed to find tunics and, other things. So, I think everybody's body is unique, and I would also love to discuss that. I think adaptations are needed for a lot of people, whether we have disabilities or not. So that was more than 2 minutes. I apologize, but looking forward to the conversation.
So next one, I'd like to hear a little bit more about. It's Billy. Can you tell us your story, please?
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to. First off, thanks so much. This is just a real pleasure, and I thank you for the opportunity here. So I'm Billy Price. I'm one of two co-founders of the company Billy Footwear. We're based out of Seattle, Washington, in the United States. I'm a wheelchair user. That was not always the case. I broke my neck when I was 18 years old. Prior to that, growing up, I was very active in the outdoors, played soccer, baseball, skiing, and unfortunately, within the first couple of weeks of being in college, I fell out of a 3-story window. And when that happened, I broke my neck and I broke my lower back, and instantly had a spinal cord injury, and my life changed forever. So along the way, since that day, I figured out how to do a lot of things. But one of those things that I did not figure out was shoes, because what I found was on the market, there were solutions that would work, but it didn't have the fashion element that I was looking for. And the last thing I wanted to do was wear something that looked different. I already felt different, so I didn't want to wear something that put a big exclamation point on the end of that feeling. So I really gave up. I really did. So I had people put my shoes on for me ever since that day, but it always bugged me. And it kind of changed into a situation where I know we can do something about this, and let's look at it a little bit different. So I teamed with a friend, Darren Donaldson, who we later became the co-founders of what later became Billy Footwear. But we came up with the concept, we're putting a zipper in a shoe where it goes around the whole outside and around the toe, where the whole upper can fold over, you can drop your foot in unobstructed. And the prototype that we made, when I put that on, that was the first time I had put my shoes on independently in 18 years. So the moment was so special that we built a business around it and tried to share it with the world. And here we are.
Awesome.
Amazing, amazing. And next one is Kristine. Could you tell your story for us? Share that with us, please, Kristine.
Hi, thank you. First off, I want to say I'm super honored and humbled to be a part of this. Thank you so much for letting me participate. My name is Kristine Ferrell, and I'll give a visual description. I'm sitting in the middle of my living room / kitchen in sunny Santa Barbara. There's a bookshelf and some plants behind me, and I'm in a white top. I'm an African-American woman with long brown hair. I very thankful because I was fortunate enough to have been given an opportunity to work on a initiative with Zappos and UGG to create some of our iconic styles, the classic UGG and the Numel, and make them more accessible to a wider community. And really the focus was basically just putting together something that doesn't compromise the look, that still has fashionability, but is super accessible. And it's been such a learning opportunity. I'm very excited to learn more and have a discussion with you guys. And I'll keep it short and sweet.
Thank you so much. So now we're going to the next question, and I'm going to start with Andrea again. What do you look for a brand? Is it fashion, function, both?
Both. I mean, yes, the short of it is both. For me, it's about looking great over the years. As I'm now in my late 30s, I think there's an element of comfort that I'm looking for that I probably cared less about when I was younger. But I'm totally paying attention to, like I said earlier, and if we're talking about shoes, that's been a journey for sure. Also because with everyone, aging, I think we all can attest to the fact that like what worked for us before, for me, my feet are generally pretty swollen. My legs are pretty swollen. I have what's known as cankles, and so there was a point where I had to kind of accept that, something, as much as I would love to wear a heel, it just is not like my feet turn over because they're on footrests. And so, there was a point at which yes, I like it, but that's not going to work for me. But still looking for elements of, sparkle and fun. Today I'm wearing a sandal that is like a snakeskin wraps up the leg situation, but we have to it's the kind where, they zip up the back, like all the way up the back, Gladiator. And we had to redo it to like get it to, so there's just things like that where it's like, okay, what can we do so that I can still have, something that's fashionable and fun, but it's not going to look like what it looked like on the model, and like be okay with that, and then now that I've moved to Arizona, there are things like a Birkenstock is wonderful. I would have never worn them before, but so it's just about looking for things that, yes, I'm going to be comfortable in. A lot of times I think people think that because you're seated, that like my feet hurt in the wrong shoe. Like that's just, the truth of it. But the Oscars was a big one, because we needed something that was going to, be sparkly and fun and go with the dress. And I had a stylist who was helping me, and she was looking everywhere. And I was like, because my foot is swollen, most sandals are like, they're hard to get on. If the sandal strap comes up to a certain point, it's not going to come on my foot. So the secret behind those is that those are actually barefoot sandals. So like the kind you wear that have no sole. But hey, I'm seated, so nobody knows. And then we found a clear sandal that we cut the thong part off and connected them together. So to have a base for it. And they weren't even actually, it just, my foot kind of sat on the bottom of it. So right now we need more brands like Billy and, the work that Kristine is doing and everything like that to pay attention to those types of things. So we don't have to do as much finagling as we do. But so we end up doing a lot of that in order to get the functionality coupled with the fashion.
Thank you so much. And Xian, what do you look for a brand? Is fashion, it's function, comfort?
Well,
What's
I look forward to that no longer being a question, because I think there needs to be the sexy factor in any kind of design, whether that's accessibility of a space or accessibility of a garment. And, you know, my experience started really with Open Style Lab at Parsons when they made a custom coat for me. And I loved that experience because they noticed some things about my needs that I didn't even realize. So, for example, when I put a coat on, it tends to be seated because both my hands are occupied when standing, right? So every time I would put my coat on, they noticed, because they were behind me, that I would get the back of my coat caught on my chair. And the reason I asked for a coat in the first place was it was raining the day I met Grace Junn, who's the founder. And I said, you know, is there something you could make for me that doesn't look like a Disneyland poncho that I can wear to speaking engagements? And she said, absolutely, and gave me a team of 6 women who followed me around for a couple of days to figure out what it was I needed. And so not only did they make it, they actually put, because Give Beauty Wings is my nonprofit and my self-esteem workshops, they put a pair of wings on the inside and gave me a higher coattail so that when I put the coat on, it doesn't get caught on the back of my chair. And that was a real eye-opener that, you know, I think we shouldn't have to choose between fashion and function. And I think that that's really the direction that fashion is headed in, and it has to be headed in, because the thing is actually, you know, I just wrote a piece in October about how people don't realize this, but for people with disabilities, I think that fashion is a huge barrier to employment at this time, because a lot of my friends feel like they can only wear sneakers. They show up or you know, pants with elastic in them. I can tell you, speaking of the Oscars, by the way, I'm a huge fan of Andrea and Billy from afar, so it's just amazing to be on a panel with everyone here, but especially I've just been watching you guys from afar. But I wanted to say about the Oscars, it makes me think of my friend Judy Heumann, who, other than the Oscars, really had told me that she could only wear 1 pair of kids' shoes from Payless, and she's been wearing the same pair for 10 years. And this is a woman who's worked with 3 presidents and now is in an you know, Academy Award winning film. And, you know, I don't think finances are the issue, it's access. And so if she's having this trouble, can you imagine what other people are going through and what a disadvantage you can feel at, like when you're walking or rolling into a room and you don't necessarily have the right, you know, tools or the right fashion accessories. So I think we need to bring the sexy into it much more, infuse, you know, that swagger factor, just because I think everybody deserves to have that swag.
right? Love this, really do. And Billy, I'm going to ask you the same, even that you made a brand from your needs, you know, but probably. So what do you look for in a brand, you know, for not for a brand, on your own product? You look for the fashion as well, was the comfort, was the functionality?
Yeah, well, it's definitely both. It's definitely both fashion and function. I mean, part of our brand slogan is fashion, function, inclusion for all. When we started the brand, we wanted to take fashion and function and really smash the 2 together. And we wanted to do it under the banner of universal design, because it wasn't a matter of trying to make something adaptive. I mean, yes, my story was kind of the inspiration behind the functionality of the shoe, but we didn't want to make something adaptive, disguising it as something mainstream. We wanted to make something that was functional for myself, yet could be on the shelves of Nordstrom. So to be able to take those 2 extremes, which would be like more like a medical store and then a fashion, you know, icon, brick and mortar, to be able to have a product that could successfully land in both of those types of, you know, spaces. I don't know, we kind of boldly set out to do it, and we kind of did it. So we very much look forward to having things with fashion and function to create something that everyone can enjoy for whatever reason. May it be just trendy because of the zippers, or may it be functional because they need to have an easier way to put their shoes on. We're trying to create something that works for everybody.
The next one is Kristine. I know that you have been working with such big brands, and so I'd like to know your opinion, your personal opinion about this. So what do you look for a brand, you know, the fashion, the function? You have a lot of experience to share with us.
I'd say now more than ever, fashion and function are equally as important. Working with a brand that really takes comfort very seriously, we really want to embody that step-in feel. And people nowadays really want more for their money. So I think fashion and function is ultimately, you know, of gold, as always.
Thank you so much. So now let's go to Andrea again. What makes for you the difference in a product when you choose something to buy?
I didn't quite hear what you said. Say that one more time.
So what do you look for a product when you're going to buy something? What makes the difference? What makes to you go to that specific product?
That's a great question. Well, it depends on what it is. And another big thing that I think that I should say is, so for me, there's disability, and I'm also plus size, according to, you know, so there's a lot of things that I'm paying attention to. And again, seated position versus, so I actually, when it comes to clothing, I'm paying attention to, yes, it looks great on this model that's generally standing 99.9% standing up, but how is it going to feel, and how is it going to look sitting down? Because that's how it's going to be. So a palazzo pant is great. Is a palazzo pant going to look like a palazzo pant sitting down, right? Probably it's going to look like a skirt, like it's going to not even have the same, you know, look. But the functionality that I'm looking for is like, does it stretch? I have people that are helping me get ready in the morning. So it's like, what kind of give? I love linen, but if linen is like pulled, you know what I mean? Like when you have people tugging and pulling on it, what is that going to mean? A cotton, something that's straight cotton, no stretch, you know? So I'm looking at material and how, you know, when it comes to wear and tear, you know, I have, you know, different medical things that are like attached. So is it going to work with that? And then for shoes, it's my feet, you know, they're on the footrest, so the heel can't be too high. It needs to be comfortable. It needs to, like most of my shoes that have straps, I have to add an extra hole to them, you know, so I'm looking at, but I'm still looking always at like, all right, is that gonna, you know, is it gonna look cute? So that's so that I'm always kind of dual, but at this point, there's certain places and certain brands that I look, you know, I go kind of directly to, knowing that, and for me, like I said, also being plus size, it fortunately and unfortunately limits my options. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. And Xian, what about you? What do you look in a product when you are going to get? What motivates you to get that product?
Well, I think I've never been one of those people that thinks beauty is pain, pain is beauty, in the sense that I have not had the luxury of, if I wear uncomfortable shoes, they're only on my feet for 5 minutes before they end up somewhere else. So I think that for me, you know, when I was kind of forced into a Mary Jane situation, I used to rotate the same pair of Mary Janes from Merrill, and they're called Plaza Bandeau. And I've actually recommended this particular brand of shoe to many of my friends who struggle with shoes, because they were functional enough and fashionable enough that I wasn't embarrassed to wear them. But, you know, I would rotate the colors. And after 5 years of doing that, you know, no matter how nice they were, I just got tired of it, you know? And so I think that now now that I do more speaking, at least pre-pandemic, I actually was okay with being a little bit uncomfortable. Like there's some jumpsuits that look fabulous, but I need to bring like a zipper upper with me, a person that's going to zip it up and help me out of it for bathroom breaks and things like that. So I think that I've kind of, you know, put fashion first more, but I don't think I should have to choose. But the ideal thing is something like I'm wearing today, where it's fashionable, but it's also comfortable. And, you know, I think definitely in the pandemic, I've been able to I have to pick things that, you know, because I've been mostly by myself, that I can put on myself and take off myself. And so when I look at how really realistic an item is can I put it on and take it off myself, I think is really important. And that seems basic probably for most people, you know, are non-disabled. You know, that is something that they're, you know, you might take for granted. But you know, having the freedom to do that and not having, you know, being in New York by myself, I don't really have a choice. But luckily, I've found things that are comfortable enough that I can do them. You know, for me, is there give in the armpit, because I don't really do the over the head thing very well. And so I have to figure out, you know, what works for my body. And in terms of shoes, I mean, and I think one thing I want to say, whether we get to this question or not, is I think what has shocked me is how much further behind I think shoes are than other types of adaptive fashion. You know, I think we have Nike, thank God we have Philly, thank God, you know, but I really think that shoes, even when I worked with Open Style Lab, I said, is there any way that you guys can work on shoes? Because that for me has always been the number one access need. And so I'm so grateful to people like Kristine who are doing that work, because I just think that, you know, first of all, we've focused a lot on kids, which that's important. You know, kids deserve to feel, you know, good when they go to school and things like that. But at the same time, kids look cute in a paper bag. I think we need to focus, I believe, and obviously I'm an adult, so I'm biased at this point, but I think that in terms of access needs, we need to also shift that focus more to shoes and more to adults. I just wanted to get that in there in case, I don't know what other questions you have, but I think I just want to underscore that I think shoes are one of the biggest areas, and why I was so excited to talk about this topic is that we need much more. We need beyond UGG. Thank God UGG is doing it. Nike's doing it. But we need some also, I would say, luxury brands doing it as well.
Thank you so much. And for you, Billy, I would like to ask you, what makes your brand unique?
Oh, it's a different question.
It's a different question.
Okay, got it. What makes this unique? Well, I would really say it's that wraparound zipper. I mean, that really is, there's really three elements that we call out in our shoes. I mean, one is the zipper, just having it go around on the side and around the toe, having it fold over, being able to step in unobstructed, because for the most part, I really haven't found it anywhere else, but all shoes, even sandals, you know, you're having to actually shove your foot into that object. I mean, even a flip-flop, there still is some putting stuff in your foot into that object. And that was one of the big struggles I had. It wasn't just a dexterity thing. It was actually physically shoving my foot into a shoe. So having that wraparound zipper, being able to drop it unobstructed, that's really unique with our brand. But it just opens up so many different opportunities. Being able to, you know, fully see how your foot is placed in the shoe. There's no more that squeezing of the toe to go, does it fit? I mean, especially in my case, I don't have feeling in my feet. I don't have the ability for someone to squeeze my toe to say like, well, how is your foot positioned in the shoe? Or are your socks like wrinkled, or like any of that stuff? Being able to have visual confirmation, that really has been beneficial. But the other part of it too, that we love to call out is every single person on this planet is on their own journey. Everyone has a story. So having the zipper go around the horn like that, having it open up, it really is like opening up like a book. So you're stepping into your book, you're stepping into your story, and it's kind of a motivator to like write your story. So those are the big things we like to call out on our brand.
Amazing. And Kristine, so I'd like to ask you as well as I did for Billy. So what makes your product unique?
I can't get Jean's question answer out of my mind where she said you shouldn't have to choose. I'd say that what makes our product unique is that we're pretty unconventional. I'm proud to be a part of a team of designers that aren't afraid of taking risks and pushing the needle forward. And fashion is definitely never something that we want to compromise in the pursuit of telling a story or being authentic. So yeah, I'd say the fact that we are comfortable with being not necessarily something that's pretty right off the bat, like it might take you a second to get used to it and have it grow on you, but I think we're happy with sometimes making things uncomfortable in that sense, stretching you to the aesthetic. So that, in addition to, again, making quality product, making sure that you have the balance of both.
Great, thank you so much. I think Angela, it's
Yep, the big moment is here. Another
there
big
you
moment
go.
here. So, well, I will take a second to thank everybody, to thank you all for being with us tonight. For me, it's like 9:55 p.m. here in Milan. So for me, it's 9. You see, I'm all glittery and fuchsia and with big earrings, like ready to go out, whether we cannot go anywhere after 10 p.m. anyways. So I'm really, really proud to introduce Chiara Farion again to you. Well, actually today she's in Foligno, another Italian town, for a workshop. She's a shoe designer, as Nancy said. We're going to have a brief conversation in Italian that I will translate. But the reason why I firstly wanted her here with us is because she's basically my right and left hand in terms of when we talk about shoes. I was lucky enough to meet her through an association here in Italy of women entrepreneurs. And when I had to work on adaptive shoes for one of my first projects with Laci, the Bigger Plans project, we needed shoes for Zazelle, the dancer. Some of you probably know her. She is partially paralyzed after a brain tumor. And we were looking for the right shoes, and I knew Chiara, and I said, can you make shoes for her? And she was like, I need all the measurements and I need everything. We worked remotely and the shoes were there, and Zazelle basically fell in love with them. I know Zazelle is not here tonight with us, but I swear she can confirm this. And then the Oscars came, and somebody asked me to contribute to the styling of Judy Human, who doesn't need any introduction, I guess. And I went and I called out for Chiara again, and she did the miracle, I think. And I learned so much from her and how she designs shoes, and her lines are luxury and really, you know, like the real shoes for everybody. So my question for her is what makes her product unique, and maybe if she can unveil some backstage secrets about the making of those red velvet sandals for Judy. I will just translate it a little bit for Chiara, and then I leave the word to her. Chiara, ti ho appena introdotto, e se vuoi condividere con il pubblico quello che hai fatto per Judy con i sandali di velluto, e magari anche qualche segreto, qualche come si dice, qualcosa che puoi svelare della produzione di questo fantastico paio di sandali.
Grazie a tutti per avermi invitato stasera. Grazie Angela. Allora, diciamo che questa scarpa è nata proprio su una richiesta di Angela di partecipare con lei per questo evento. Il tempo era molto breve, quindi è nata in 4 giorni, e per farla nascere in 4 giorni c'è stato proprio un team di passaparola veloce, anche con il team che comunque poi si occupa di cucirlo e logicamente montare poi la scarpa. E penso che in quando la scarpa è nata proprio anche da un'energia positiva, nella sapere che comunque questa scarpa andava a Judy e che quindi l'avrebbe fatta anche felice. Una delle chicche è stata un po' il fatto che tra la velocità avevo sbagliato una misura per la bordatura, quindi nonostante il tempo era ristretto sono dovuta anche correre di nuovo dal fornitore per comprare questa cosa, e quindi è stata proprio una lotta contro il tempo. E nello stesso tempo non avevamo la forma delle misure che servivano a Judy dopo che ci aveva dato le misure, e quindi ci siamo inventati come poter montare la scarpa per comunque realizzarla. E quindi da una forma che era lunga così, noi siamo comunque riusciti a montare un sandalo che era corto così. E questa è una delle dietro le quinte di questa scarpa.
Grazie Chiara, adesso mi prendo un paio di minuti per tradurre. Sono molto emozionata. I have to say that Chiara and I are very good friends, but I'm really, really, how do you say, excited about this and a little bit emotional because it's been a great opportunity for us, and Chiara is a genius of shoes. So I really hope you can all have the chance to meet her in person one day. So what she said, after thanking you all for being here, is that the shoe was a rush against time. It was a big challenge because she only had literally 4 days to make it, because the brainstorming was like the 5th of April, and by the 16th of April everything had to be in Washington, and everything was made to measure. So what she did, she had it, of course she designs the shoes, and then she has a team of artisans working with her. And because they didn't have the shape of the shoe, they had to take an existing one and work on it so that the size and the measurements could actually fit Judy's feet. And they had to make it shorter because Judy has a smaller foot, but the shape was not there for her. So they basically invented a new shape that was needed. And everything was handmade. There was what she also revealed is that she did take a wrong measurement, and she had to run back to the artisan and told him to modify it a little bit, everything in 4 days, like working day and night. But actually it arrived the day before it was meant to. So I don't know how she did it. And yes, basically this is what she shared about the story. And one other thing is that what motivated her and what drove her work through these days was some positive energy, because she knew that these shoes meant something big for Judy and could make her happy, which actually happened for what we know. So thank you, Chiara, and thank you for bearing the translations as well. Okay, so we have some comments. Actually, Barbara says, even though I can't understand the language, it's so wonderful to hear it. I miss Italy and Milan so much, and I hope to be there at the end of September. Fingers crossed. I hope to meet Chiara at that time. I'm working on my Italian, but we're waiting for you. So we go on with the questions. So the fourth question is, what motivates you in what you do? So in your, when you produce, when you create, when you consult, and I start again from Andrea.
Can you repeat that one more time? I want to make sure I got everything.
Yes. What motivates you to go on being an activist and a consultant?
Oh my goodness. So many things motivate me, but I think the biggest thing is that there were so many things that I didn't have, or people that I didn't see growing up. And so, you know, I am grateful for the journey that I've, been on. I think in terms of self-acceptance, even though you have a diagnosis, even though I've been disabled my entire life, there's still, because of the stigma around disability and lack of accessibility, and then with multiple identities as a disabled Black woman, I spent more than the first half of my life really trying to get people not to see or to not pay attention to my disability. And so I think that, in learning about and meeting, over a decade ago and becoming friends with people like Judy Heumann, and really understanding that I can have pride about my disabled identity in the same ways that I do about other aspects of my identity, like being a Black woman, Black person, being a woman. And so those are things that I'm like, man, I wish that I knew that that was even a possibility, when I was younger. I wish that if I had seen someone like me on television or out in society living life, somebody that, had passions and, was pursuing their dreams and all of that stuff. And so that's honestly my greatest motivator is knowing that there's an opportunity for me, along with, alongside others, to affect change, so that those that are coming, the young people, the folks that you see in Crip Camp, of that age range, high school and college and all of that, that if we can create in every aspect of life. So while, we work on, things around employment and, healthcare, it's also society, it's also culture in general. So that's not, that's not the whole sum of who we are. There's so many aspects, and style and fashion is one of those. And so that's really what it's about for me. That's what motivates me, is that it's not just siloed to certain things or certain topics, but that if we can infuse kind of inclusion and belonging in every aspect of life that we live, then the world's going to be better for everybody. So that's really what motivates me.
Thank you. And Xian, what motivates you?
Wow. Well, it's tough to follow that, but I will say that I've always said that I'm a humanist first, and I believe that what motivates me is I pretty much ask myself, does this help humanity? Are the conditions? Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm getting a call. I'm ignoring the call. Does this help humanity? Are the conditions fair, and am I available? And that's pretty much how I decide what I get to do. I think in terms of disability advocacy specifically, it really started, and I've always kind of responded to the need. So even beyond disability, for example, not only did I see in my second job ever, when I was working with 45 members total in this wonderful theater, Actors Studio Actors, Kennedy Center award-winning playwrights, writing in their journals about body image issues, and my friends who were ballerinas struggling with eating disorders, and I had grown up really in a bubble where I saw my disability as this incredible asset and this blessing, because I was the daughter of artists who really celebrated my uniqueness as a whole. They didn't make me choose between being Jewish and Chinese, for example. They didn't make me, they definitely did not deny my disability, but I just felt like Xian first. And as a result, I think that actually it's interesting, because I know this is not the typical experience, but the one area of my life that you cannot make a narrative for me is my disability. The one area, no matter what you say to me, and this has happened, I had a woman come up to me and say, "What's wrong with you?" And she was tearing at her newspaper. She looks up at me and I said, "Well, I have cerebral palsy. Thank you so much for asking. It's the blessing of my life. And I turned to get a pair of glasses. I went about my day because I've had nicer versions of that question, obviously, before. But to me, my answer's the same no matter what. I mean, I can say that as a girl becoming a woman, I was not that confident. And I definitely, the thought that I'm not good enough still comes to me on a daily basis. But now I just have the tools to give that thought a left hook. And so my first motivator was really just self-esteem for everyone, especially around disability, because I wanted to see disability celebrated universally and realizing that not everybody has the love and support that I grew up with. And so I want to be the love and support that others may not have had. But beyond that, and becoming more of an advocate, realizing how much in terms of employment is still necessary, like Andrea mentioned, and also, whether it's the beauty industry or there's so many aspects. Transportation is a huge barrier to so many things as well. So I've become kind of an accidental advocate for many things, just following the need, as and realizing the power of assistive technology or the power of fashion to bring belonging and identity. As Andrea mentioned about inclusion, I think part of the reason that I think there's this almost diversity apology tour happening now is because we didn't have deep integration from day one. And we wouldn't have to talk about diversity and inclusion if we had actually included the entire, and represented the entire world. I think walking with two ski poles and being half Asian and, I didn't expect to see myself represented unless it was me, because I'm really niche. But as a result, I mean, I definitely remember identifying with other women. But, I think that in a lot of ways, we have catching up to do. And on the other hand, it makes me hopeful. And I think that with all the persecution that's happened in the last year for people of color, I feel like that's our moment, and for people with disabilities, it's our moment. Any marginalized group, any underdog, I think right now is our time. So, let's use it as a motivator. But, if it feels lopsided, it is. And it has to be, because we've been lopsided the other way for so long. So that's a really long answer. I wish I could actually say more, but I'm going to leave it there because otherwise we'll do another hour.
Thank you, Xian. So we have Gregory saying so much inspiration here. I agree. Billy, what motivates you?
I love that question, and I'll answer it two different ways. One, as a business owner, what motivates me is the feedback we get from the customer. And there's so many examples that we have that you can just feel the tears between the lines of a parent talking about describing the experience their child had, being able to put their shoes on for the first time, of which they never could before, or being able to find a pair of shoes that now fit over their brace or something they can never find, or to be able to put their shoes on independently and no longer be in pain. Or a parent that had a stroke and is paralyzed on one side and they haven't been able to deal with laces, and now they can use the zipper and they can have success. So that type of stuff really motivates me as a business owner to keep growing the business so we can get more shoes out there to add more value to that many more people. But on a personal side, so when I broke my neck, when I fell 3 stories, it was to concrete. So if you actually crunch the numbers, typically, it doesn't really work in your favor. So the fact that I came out of the injury, 1, still alive, and 2, still with my head on my shoulders, every day I wake up in the morning is a day that I really possibly could not have had. So there really is an excuse for a bad day. So I try to do the best I can with each day.
Thank you. Kristine, what motivates you?
Wow, I couldn't agree more with what everyone has said. I'd say the first thing that comes to mind that motivates me is time. This year in particular has taught me that it is not promised, and it's forced me to really hone in on the things that really matter and to make the most of it. I'd say the other thing that motivates me is the thought that something that can come creatively from your brain, like inkling of an idea, could turn into a tangible item that someone actually chooses to put on, always makes me feel good. I make a habit of reading the reviews because they're little love letters. Just the thought that someone actually appreciates something that you've created. And I say, on top of that, and probably most important, is, you know, having had that experience working with Zappos to create product that's more adaptive and more inclusive, is to acknowledge that that's something that can actually impact someone's life in a positive way. Really, I think humbles me to no end and motivates me to work with my team more to make that a bigger goal. And lastly, it would be being a Black woman in a fashion industry in a senior position that's not occupied by many people that look like me. I'm always motivated to, you know, show my best foot forward, be the best representative, and speak with authenticity in whatever I create. So, yeah, that's it.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. Okay, next question. You can choose to have maybe 2 or 3 words, or just free your thoughts. Can you tell us what it means to you about being a disability advocate, Andrea?
I'm trying to think of the 3 words. It means privilege and responsibility. Yeah.
Thank you. Xian?
Well, I'd say the personal is universal, meaning I think that it's really turning your me story into a we story, and thinking collectively. That's not 3 words. I'm sorry. It's hard to do. I'm not good with tweets either. But I love you.
That's okay. That's okay. That was a good quote. Billy?
Well, this just popped in my head. I would just say lead by example.
Kristine?
I would say support, protect, and empower.
Wow. Okay. Last question. Tell us your opinion on the future of adaptive or inclusive fashion. And if you can, share some recent or future projects that you're working on. Andrea?
Well, I have a lot of high hopes, you know, for the future of fashion. You know, the goal is that I think about working in nonprofit, and we always would say, you know, the goal is that we wouldn't need to exist because people are, you know, just doing these things naturally, right? And so it's kind of the same way, you know, as we have our niche, you know, kind of you know, products and brands like what Billy is doing, which is amazing. And then there's also that, you know, everyday brands are thinking about and incorporating access, and not just incorporating it and not having the representation in the marketing. So I think that it needs to come hand in hand. So people need to see themselves in these products more and more. So that's what my hope is. And I think what Xian said about the luxury brands, yes, please, for sure. And in terms of things that I'm working on, you know, when it comes to fashion, I have all these ideas, but that is, you know, I'm the one that likes to wear the things. So if anybody wants to work with me, you know, I'm like, let's put some ideas together, you know, because that is not where my, you know, the background is. It's more of being able to kind of look at and know and style and stuff like that. So I'm hoping for, you know, brand partnerships and stuff like that. So we'll see.
Very good. Xian?
Yeah, well, I mean, Andrea covered a lot. I would say that brands like Billy's and UGG and Zappos singles program, I've got to give them a shout out. You know, that they responded to the need that people were asking for 2 different size shoes, or just a left shoe or a right shoe. these are all things moving in the right direction. I just would like to see us have more choice, and that every brand has an adaptive section or consideration where they really are able to test this out and be more inclusive, because we are 1 in 4 according to the CDC. Obviously those aren't all mobility disabilities, but you know, even down to texture, you know, that helps the autism community. And so there's so many ways in which these brands can be more inclusive. But yeah, I'd like to see luxury brands seeing the viability of our consumer base. And I'm very happy to say that I am working with brands like Zappos and you know, and Target, and I wish I could say more, but you know, we got to start somewhere. And I'm grateful for what's out there, but I think what's out there is going to make what's coming more possible. So I'm excited that we're kind of at this point, because I can't wait to see what's next.
Thank you. Billy.
Well, I would say that, you know, we've all experienced with 2020 and social distancing and just being at home, and, you know, the whole purchasing landscape has changed so much with the shift to going online. Because before, you just go to brick and mortar to see what's on the shelf, and that's really what your options are. Now with online buying, you can really buy whenever, wherever, and there's so many more choices, which means that as a consumer, as a customer, you know, you're going to take the time to, one, see it, but also dig in to get a better understanding about the brand and see what the story is, which then propagates more relationship. So I would say really the brands right now, it's been exciting for us, but I think a lot of brands are doing this, is really trying to build that relationship with the customer, tell the story, tell the need, and reinforce that, you know, we're listening to those needs and doing the best we can to accommodate. So I think that as we move forward, I think all brands are going to be doing that. And it's great, because then we feel good about what we're buying. It's not just a widget off the shelf. Big things we have in the works. We've been listening to the customer. So the customer's been asking for rain boots. The customer's asking for winter boots. The customer's been asking for running shoes. And they've also asking for wider shoes. So we're very excited to be able to moving in that direction in the next year.
Thank you. Kristine?
I would say I would define the future of fashion and inclusion to be that we're finally acknowledging a very large population and making sure that they have just as much access and options as the next person, and not making it a caveat or an exception, that it's a rule. I'd say what's coming up would be that I'm very proud to acknowledge that Deckers and UGG have committed to being a partner with the 500 Valuable 500. And ultimately what that is an organization that collects 500 companies and leaders to make sure that the disability inclusion is more part of the agenda when it comes to business leadership. And there's more to come soon.
Thank you. I mean, I really thank you personally for my...
Can I just Billy made me think of something, and obviously Valuable 500 having, you know, part of the board agenda is so important, but you mentioned brick and mortar stores, so I'm going to actually steal an answer from my friend Alex at Patty and Ricky and say I also would love to see brick and mortar stores have adaptive sections, not just the online portion. I swear I'm done. I just wanted to put that in there before you call on the next person, since this is the last hurrah.
No. Now my thank you is even wider, because as a personal stylist, and when I look for clothes for my clients, I struggle most of the time because I cannot find the right things for them. So, you know, there's lots of research. So the more you work on this, the better my life is with my customers. So this was the last question, but I would like to ask Chiara as well if she does want to share her thoughts about the future of fashion inclusion and if she can share some future projects. Quindi Chiara, se vuoi dire la tua opinione sul futuro della moda inclusiva e se puoi svelare qualche progetto o qualcosa di interessante su cui stai lavorando.
Allora, condivido comunque quello che voi avete detto, nel senso che la moda non è una cosa di pochi, ma è una cosa che deve essere di tutti. E quindi avere la possibilità che qualsiasi persona appunto possa avere la possibilità di scegliere i colori, di poter scegliere delle nuove texture e poter scegliere poi anche il modello da poter indossare, sia che sia di abbigliamento ma anche di scarpe. La cosa che mi è piaciuta tantissimo per Julie, faccio questo piccolo esempio, è aver potuto dare qualcosa che lei desiderava a livello anche già di colore, perché a volte la moda che non è inclusiva non comprende che a tutti piacciono i colori, a tutti piace comunque avere un qualcosa di unico e quindi non bisogna accontentarsi, cosa che invece fino all'altro giorno, per parlare comunque di quello che non è inclusivo, tante persone si dovevano accontentare. Ecco, oggi noi non vogliamo più accontentarci perché noi siamo persone uniche e quindi è giusto che la moda prenda questa strada e che diventi appunto inclusiva e di tutti. Progetti futuri, spero comunque di continuare su questa strada e di poter trovare appunto delle soluzioni anche produttive per far sì che questa cosa avvenga e spero che questa collaborazione con Angela porti a questa strada e di sicuro ci lavoreremo, insomma. Grazie.
Grazie, Chiara. So I will translate for those who don't speak Italian. So she said that, of course, she shares all the thoughts that were shared before her, and that she believes that fashion is for everybody, and that we, in general, should not compromise when we are in a shop to buy clothes or shoes, and we should not just accept what is there, but we should have a much wider range of options in terms of colors and textures and models. And she shared a little bit more about the experience with about making the sandals for Judy, about the color, because she made them in red because Judy loved red. So Judy could actually choose the color, and this is something that should be available for everybody. And we should not underestimate the power of color and the power of having the opportunity to choose it, because we are unique and colors make us look unique. And she said, today we're here to stop compromising, but just celebrating our uniqueness. And for the future projects, she hopes to be able to go on in developing her inclusive collections, and she's going to do so that also the production process will make it even more accessible for people. Thank you. Okay, so we have some great comments. We also have one in Portuguese, so I will let Samanta read that. From Barbara Gaspari.
Yeah, Barbara, so nice to meet you here. Muito feliz de você estar aqui. She said that there's a lot of stories, beautiful stories and inspirational ones. Thank you. Obrigado, Barbara.
And we had other comments. Well, many of our participants would like to speak with Andrea and loving the passion from you all. This conversation is so rich, really enjoying the passion and value on this panel. We're done with our questions. So if you have questions for the panelists, if you want to open a discussion, we do have some more minutes.
I have a question. Speaking personally as a designer that's kind of just being introduced to this arena, what advice do you have for someone like me that can, help, create more of an impact? I've learned a lot already, but I'm always all ears. And it's a general question, so whoever wants to chime in.
Yeah, I would say to connect with the community and stay engaged and, be talking always and get information and feedback. I think this is something that probably you guys do with your research and everything before we launch. I also want to highlight that we have a WhatsApp group talking about fashion and inclusion. We have a lot of people there, and we are always trying to bring new subjects and questions and everything. And it's only allowed for us to talk about inclusion in fashion there. So if you guys want to be part of this group, you're more than welcome. We can add you there. So is what you want is to make this conversation more easy for everyone to exchange, and for brands, personal stylists, and everyone that wants to be part and to know more about this, because we understand this is something that is new for everyone. It's a cultural process that comes, even like for the woman revolution, color, and now we are in the point where we're talking about disability, and we are creating that. We don't have that in history as we can go there and copy, so we need to stick together to create this together, find solutions together. And I think on my point of view is like try and error. We don't have something that is going, even that we try to work on the universal design, nothing is universal. You're not going to reach everyone with, so it's we need to see who is our customer, who is for who we are catering, and try to find the solutions. And if that doesn't work, try again and try again and try again. So I think what makes us strong is to keep together as a community, as I would say, as a family, as a friends, as we are, and try to support each other and discover, exchange ideas. And
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I would love to jump in there too, Kristine, because I want to thank you for asking that question, because that is the ultimate allyship. I have to tell you, I've been thinking a lot about allyship, and my own definition has really evolved. I think when allyship doesn't work, it's when people try to tell communities how to be instead of asking the right questions. So just the fact that you asked that question makes me know that you're on the right path. And I would say continue having one-on-one conversations. And I would love to have a one-on-one conversation with you, specifically around UGG or anything else you're interested in, or as my mom calls it, UGGs, because she's an immigrant. But yes, but I would love to have a conversation with you. But I think you're already, just asking that question, I think, is the first step, and getting the answers from as many people as you can, because of the fact that, disability is not a monolith, womanhood is not a monolith, being of color is not a monolith. So we are constantly learning from each other. And so I'm really excited to see what you discover this year. But I think the fact that you're asking that question, you're already on the right path. And so I'm excited for you and happy to support you as you go on in this journey.
Thank you very much.
And I'm going to pop in to say that, to Xian's point too, around, I think the cultural aspects is so important. Like I think about, and not just disability, to Xian's point about disability not being a monolith. Like for me, it's not just, okay, the fashion from the standpoint of like, it looks cute, but it's also, the urban feel, that I, as a Black woman, that I may want to, so it's like the bringing it all together. How can fashion even reflect the intersectionality, even around disability, that I think is like important? Because Elaine Bryant and for here in America, like Elaine Bryant and Ashley Stewart are like two very different, you know what I mean? Like they're very different, right? Just based on, and so I think that's the same like thing that I'm thinking as a Black woman. I know there's a specific feel and look that I'm going for, and yet it's like right now I still feel like adaptive design is like its own segmented thing, bringing together all of those pieces as well. So I'm with Xian. I'd love to have an offline conversation about it. But.
I am all ears. It's a great point of view. So I'm definitely taking that in. Thank you.
Yeah, and one last thing I thought of as we're talking about this not being a monolith is that I think the advice that I would have, not just for one brand in particular, is where you can, please favor customization. You know, everybody wants something couture, but because we're not a monolith, I think the more that you can make room for individuality and, you know, our bodily differences, our personality differences, I think the more successful a brand could be. And I know that's tough when you want to do mass production and things like that, but that would be a general comment as well.
Any other questions? It's so great. See everyone interact. Barbara, you're very active here. Writing. Let me hear your voice. So I think is that Angela, we are happy to tell you about your next meeting in September. So we have a date for that, and I'm going to leave that for Angela to tell you all about that. It's going to be great, and also beforehand is going to be Angela's birthday. So I think we should all meet there.
That's how we choose dates.
Glass of wine, of champagne, and it's going to be during London Fashion Week, and celebrate fashion and our community. So please, Angela, go ahead and tell a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we're going to have our next panel on the 18th of September. But because my birthday is going to be on the 19th, then it's going to be a little bit longer so that we can celebrate. No, I'm joking. But yes, power to Virgos. Sorry, this is personal with Barbara. So the next panel is going to be on the 18th, same time. Wherever you are in the world, the same time you're connected today, it's going to be the 18th, on the 18th of September. And it's going to be about some glamorous fashion. So we will call it Glam Fashion Week. So we're going to talk about fancy clothes and, you know, everything, those things that everybody has, but some people don't yet. But we promise we'll bring literally the most fashionable things you ever seen. We'll work on that. And we really hope you, thank you. We really hope you'll be there too. If you have any suggestions, anything that you would like to hear, any brands that you would like to see here, or any requests, share them with us so that we make sure that every time we organize a new panel, it fits your needs in the best way possible. And we do have some more time for questions if you have, so don't be shy, or write us and we can always forward them to the right people if you need so.
This video is going to be on our YouTube, and we are going to send you guys the link so you can share and watch again and whatever. So yeah, just any more questions? Nope. Thanks so much, guys, for being here with us. It was such pleasure to meet all of you, and what great work and that we are all doing as a community. And I'm going to, Nancy, do you like to say something else?
I think you're muted.
You're mute. Can you?
Yeah.
Just one second.
Maybe there are some tech issues.
1 second, let me find you. I cannot unmute you.
No, I cannot either. Do you want to type? Why can't we unmute you? Well, in the meantime, I will read another comment from Lisa Cox. I would like to offer assistance around inclusive marketing and advertising. It's my professional background, and I've been working with agencies here in Australia, but as a country, we're sadly behind the US and UK. So make sure we all get connected.
Sorry, Nancy, I cannot unmute you. I don't know why. Explain.
Also, somebody asked for our social handles, so maybe we could go around and share what those are. I know Andrea put hers in the chat already, but I just want to say mine is XIANFOR Beauty 83. And I think they want everybody's, so feel free to share.
Thank you.
So we keep it simple. We're at Billy Footwear.
Thank you.
Mine is at K as in kangaroo, D as in dog, E, F as in Frank 22. So KDF 22. And also UGG, of course.
Thank you.
How frustrating is that, Nancy? So sorry. I don't know why. Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay, so let me come back to the layout, see all of us. I'm going to stop to record, and if we could take a picture of all of us together.
And big thanks to Nancy, even though we can't hear her.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.